Wow, it's recording already. So I wanted to have a little talk, a little chat about drawing faces, because I think sometimes the idea of drawing faces is really intimidating. And a lot of times that makes the actual drawing worse because you're worried about if it's going to look like the person or all of this. And when you're just starting out, those aren't the best worries to have. The best worries to have are, do I have the right pencil? Is my Q-tip flimsy? Is it whatever you're using as your tools? That's where you want to start. You don't want to start with the finished picture because that's way out there in the future. You want to kind of ground into now, and that is the setup of how you're going to get there. So I want to go ahead and just put out a few steps. I'm teaching this in a class right now, and it's working really well. So that's why we're going to do it here. So I'm sharing my screen so you can see my lovely this. There we go. Okay, so here's what I've got. I've got a brush because graphite makes a lot of little particles, and you're going to want to brush off. Your hand will smear it, and that's not good. And I'm also seeing that you're only seeing baby screen. So let me get this. There we go. I also have a Ticonderoga. This is a number 2 pencil, just real regular pencil, everyday pencil. And then this is a 5B. So the B, this is way here, hard to read, but the B is the black part of the pencil. And you can ask Brandon because he knows all about that. Don't ya? B. So here is also not the tortillon. This is the blender. So those are the tools. The blender makes a difference. The tortillons are the paper ones, and they look like you can unwrap them. Those don't work as well. This looks like smushed up cardboard. That's the one you want, smushed up cardboard. So the way I start with this is I've got the Ticonderoga, the number 2 pencil. I'm just using this as an outline. In general, and face shapes are going to be different, but in general, it's an egg. So I'm not looking at an egg, best guess of an egg. So that's where I'm starting. It's just this egg shape. I'm also going to show you a 3x5 card, just so you get an idea. Here's a 3x5 card. That's about how big this is, a little under 3 inches. So if you start with that, just as a general starting place, this is the 5B. And the great thing about this is because there's so much graphite here, I can really build up a big pile of it. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this blender stump, and I'm really going to kind of cake it into this. And then I'm going to do this series of, okay, there's the chin. So I've got my hand on my chin, and I'm getting a feel, basically, okay, it's kind of oval, and kind of connect it with that. Right up from your chin, there's this place, and pretty much your finger fits there. So I'm going to do a smudge right on top. So now I've got my chin, and I've got this place. If I shut my mouth, there's a line straight across, and then my lip. I've got a double monitor, so I'm looking way up above to look at you, but actually you're better there. So the lip now we're looking at. So I switch over to this then and think, all right, there's a lip that's going here. I'm not really putting it in, but I'm holding space in my head for it. But I'm going to draw a line here. So I've got this oval here, chin, that space. There's my smudge, skipping a bit. And this is what the practice is going to be. How much you're going to skip. Those are the things that are going to be learned as you do this. Those are the things not really to worry about now though, because once you draw a couple of these, you're going to self-correct because you see faces all the time. So you're not going to get stuck. You might not like the drawing of it. That's not the point now though. This is probably the first time you've ever done it this way. So cut yourself serious slack for that. It's not going to be great, but it's going to take you much quicker to understanding the concept behind drawing a face rather than just the steps to it. So there's my line, straight mouth, that straight line. I'm feeling this space. So that's a pretty good space, about 1/2 inch. I'm going to say it's about the same. So I'm going to draw another smudge for this space right here. And then on top of that smudge, I'm going to draw a circle. That's the circle, the tip of my nose is that circle. So smudge here on top. So I'm up a little bit. See, that is me self-correcting because I know it's actually up a bit. But there you go. That's what happens. So if I draw it like this, say somewhere in there, and then that circle is going to go right there. So we're up to the nose. So if you take your finger and slide it down your nose, it's literally going to about that second knuckle. So about 2 inches. So you think about that, and then you're like, okay, that slide, what would that look like on paper? So it's up about to here maybe. And again, you're going to self-correct on this, but at least it's a point that you can put down. So get that there. That's this point right here. So if I look straight at you, you can see my eyes, the pupils are kind of blocked by that. So this is like kind of cheater place, but if you put a dot here and a dot here, and the way I'm locating those is there's kind of a correlation. If you look between, when I look straight at you and you look where my pupils are to where the sides of my mouth are, kind of, right? It's not too far off. So it's a great starting place. So I'm dropping down then kind of this imaginary line from here to here. That's kind of how I knew, because I can judge, because I've done this a few times, right? So I can see that now, and I'm self-correcting every time I do this, getting better at teaching it too. So if I do that, and now I say, okay, and I know, as you do too, that eyeballs are these big white things with this round colored part in the center, and then there's the highlight, and I'm going to make that lovely moon shape, and that's going to make, there's my pupil, okay, and there's the eyeball itself, okay. So that's that's what I know is happening on the eye. We'll come back to that later. But so here we've got this, that, and the eyeball located, or the pupil right in the center of that. So up to that far. So now if you look at me, right here, there's, especially since my forehead's high, but you can see right here, there's kind of this ovalish place. So that's the next one. If this right here, and I'll go through this with the camera like on me instead of on my little drawing as well, but right here is this, kind of located those a little bit lower than that, but not a lot. This circle then, right here, that's the forehead. So really, this is kind of a little process visually. You know, this, the oval, the smudge, here's your lip line, right under your nose, tip of nose, going down into this bridge right here where the glasses sit, or just below, and then the forehead. So in our oval, by putting this oval or egg shape, this point right here is this point back here. If you have a ruler, which I don't have right next to on this board, okay, top of your head, this point, that's what you're looking at when you're looking at the top of this egg shape. Forget my hairline, that's lower down. So in some people's hairline here. So what you're looking at with this point is the top of the head. I'm going to go down to here, chins, that bone, usually pretty straight across. So I'm going to put a line at the bottom for my chin line. So when I do this, distribution of space is right down the center because we're symmetrical. So that's great. And then on the ending is here. So you know that one side is going to be equal to the other, more or less. So that is, I'm going to stop the share first. So that's the setup of how to do that. So I'm looking straight at you, and by just doing this and just seeing on me where that square is and how those lines fit in, you've got your own face to kind of correlate so that you get kind of this hand-eye coordination understanding of the concept of making a flat piece of paper become a face. So having done that, and so what we did, here's that lower circle is this, here is that line, the smudge that we put in the second one, there's the straight line for the lip, this space here, about the same, circle at the end of the nose, figure this out, kind of like feel that and feel what that angle is like. So that goes back this way. Pupils just a little bit below that with the big circle that makes that outside of the eyeball, and then that circle. So that's where we're up to. So back to the lovely face. So now if I take my blender and I'm going to pick a light source, I'm going to put it right here. So at least I know where my shadows can go. Right here, this is going to connect down like this. There's your nose. It's not poorly proportioned, this face. Is it great? No, I'm not looking at anyone's face. Needed eraser. All I'm doing is lifting out. You wouldn't have to lift this out on yours. I'm doing it so I can show you, so it's not really gunked up with graphite. So if this is my nose, I'm going to start with lightly. Okay, here is the circle that was here. So on either side, I'm going to put these circles. And one of my students, Callie, taught me this literally like 3 weeks ago. She's 11, although I put her on the art show 14. I'm like, better to guess older than guess younger. So I scored on that. But she taught me this. Look at how great this is. Okay, so then the nostrils are right here. You're going to dip down into that circle and come back up in a nostril right here. So that's the nose, not bad. Lines down, because those are those. I'm sure there's a name for those. And then right there is, if it's a female, traditionally you can make those big bow lips, although it doesn't matter. But it's great to think about that right now because there is a V right there. So you want to think about it. You can take it out later, you can change it, but for place holding and doing it now, great thing to put this V in here. So lips right here. So I'm drawing them in, and you can look at your face in a mirror too and see, well, where does that pink connect? Where does the lip connect to the skin? So you can really fine tune obviously into features, but I'm just showing you now pretty quickly. And yes, I do this all the time. So I get that pretty quickly for me, but it's just practice. It's a system. It's something that you can learn. You'll bring your style to it, but you can do this. It's just practice, right? So we go up here. Here's this. I'm just going to go right over the top of this, come around, put a lid on, and an eyebrow, and maybe fill this in a little bit more. So you can see without a lot of having to mess around, you can get a face that's terrible without a lot of having to mess around. What do I mean by that? Without having to get into this, does it look real? Does it look not real? With the egg shape, it's really not going to look real. With this, it doesn't really look real. When you get to this point, it's starting to look real, and I would grab a reference picture then. I'm going to stop sharing so I can actually talk. So I would grab a reference picture. If I was liking the way this was looking, like right now, I would be on my phone, Googling faces, finding something that's got the same angle, the same kind of look that I've got. Now is when I start making it look like a person. So this is all, I'm just showing you right now, like finishing. You can take something that's very simple like this, and depending on your level of dedication, 10,000 hours put into it, your face is going to be different. You may judge that as better or worse, but It's practice. It's in the beginning. And this is the setup. So once you learn the setup, I want to do a second video. We'll come back to this, but I'm just teaching this now. So this really helps me clarify, one, my class, but it also helps me teach it again so that the next class, it's like, okay, I've already pre-taught this, if that makes sense. But I'm starting to ask different questions about what makes this work. And this, I'm going to go back to this face that I'm drawing. So shutting this down further, and I'm back to the 2B now because I really don't want this smearability. That was the 5B that I started with. And that's great for these very shadowy blender shapes. Perfect for that. So in here now, I've got this starting very strange, the elongated skull proof right here. That elongated skulls are a thing. So this I would correct, right? This is really high. I think about, I've got a high forehead. If that circle's here, my hairline's up here. So you can start seeing, well, okay, it's got to be at least down to here. And I know the sides of the head are flat, so I can come in a little bit more. Another real convenient thing is, here is the side of my eye. I go back, there's my ear, and I've got big ears. So mine's coming almost to mid here. So say bottom of the nose. So I can kind of just say, all right, well, the ear is going to come in from here to here. So I can start tweaking this person by putting hair in, by making changes to it that now start making you think it's more a person than not, because you're getting a lot of details. So you can finish this to completion. So light source here, what I'm going to do on this side, I'm just going to throw in shadows with my blender because I know that I can, because this is the side away from the light. So I can even start tweaking face shape by putting shadows in too, and maybe kind of guessing a neck or a stance. So shading everywhere that it's going to be. I know this side is not finished, but you can start seeing a little expression. I can start playing around maybe with dimples. If I were looking at a picture, this is where I would be putting in all the actual structural form details. So you can see how this person can show up quickly. This is all shadow though now. So in the setup at this point, you really can use the blender for me to absolutely unhook your left brain critic, because I was never taught to draw like this. So for me, I had to get out from underneath, that sucks, you can't draw an eye and you're an art teacher, that kind of stuff, because it's always there. Because when you see someone's face, you think, oh, I know what an eye looks like. And then you're doing this, you're going, okay, yep. And I know that that's a circle. And you get this, and I know that there's this, and you get a caricature of an eye or a cartoon of an eye. It's a very symbolic eye. It's clearly an eye, but there's a lot of things like a lid. There's so much that is different when you're actually going to draw. I'm looking at the computer screen and trying to draw this at the same time. But when you're actually going to draw an eye, a lot of different things happen that aren't on that, and that you would really need to correct in order to make something that is now approaching real, or going to be something that you're going to say, okay, it's real in a different way, but I can start making you believe, with giving you context and more information, that this is something that might be real now. So this is really fine tuning this, but with a blender, you can put in so much of this before you put in that and get your line drawing, like with this, really, really spot on, so that when you start going in, you can start looking at an eye and seeing, right, well, how would you know that this curves like this? Because around the sphere, that's what's going to happen. And you can see the eye coming out of this. Here's that orbit bone. You can feel that. Is it circular? No, it's more oblong, but it's close enough. So all these little things are these fine tunings that as you practice, you're going to get really good at. But the thing to remember with this is the more blender space you can use, the less you're going to get that left brain in, because it's too weird that you're drawing it like this. Your mind now is thinking on, okay, how do I connect this? You're all strategy at this point, which your left brain is happy doing. So there's really no interference because you're giving it a job to do. And the blender is great because your right brain goes, oh, I get to play with form. Look at how quick that is. That's very gratifying to start putting this in and start watching as a person appears. And then I can take my eraser, which I just switched out all my stuff. So, and back in and start really creating a person in here with these tools. And it's great because there's not a lot of effort that went into this. It's just fun. And this is the practice part, because if practice is fun, you'll practice. So that's a thing to practice. You can use a Q-tip instead of this. I don't think it works as well. I think the point on this is worth it. Sharpen it, like get rid of all that stuff with an emery board. Works great. So practice that, because it's very gratifying. If you like drawing faces, it's a help to take it to the next level, so you can start understanding how you could get that realism and how you can apply it backwards to something that you're not stressing about. So I want to teach another one, or kind of do this again. I don't know if that's, I suppose that counts as teaching. It doesn't feel like work for me. It just feels like fun. So thank you very much. And I am now trying to figure out how to stop recording. This is where this is where the help is needed. It's kind of like the tech. The teaching the class, that's the fun part. This part is now like, all right, it'll make it to a video. What time is it? Probably in an hour. All right, until next time, practice smudgy faces. Yes, I am sure. Okay, I'm hitting yes, and good luck.